Hello and welcome to Mark All Horsemanship. Here we are with Goldie, a 2-year-old little filly, a dun quarter horse filly. Goldie got here yesterday and we're just getting started with her on a little bit of groundwork. But Goldie's got a pretty significant natural resistance. Now, all horses have resistance in them, but sometimes it's prolonged. It's not prolonged, but it's more pronounced in some than in others. And with Goldie, her natural way out is to go back or up or both, and that's a natural resistance right there. Now, it could stem from the way she was taught to lead. You know, when I teach a weanling, a 6-month-old to lead, I get them over that natural resistance, that pressure and release thing pretty quickly. In other words, I don't care to pull on them a little bit and get them to come to them. But a lot of times when horses have never been pulled on or started to be taught to lead properly, then they sometimes it's not addressed correctly, and then it climaxes. And if you don't get it out of them now, it will show up somewhere else. And you might say, well, Mark, I'm still confused. What are you talking about? I'm talking about when you go to put pressure on this halter rope and on this head right here, her natural response is to not give to it, to not come to it. And when she does, she either responds to it in one of 2 or 3 ways. One, she'll either hop up and come to it quickly, or she'll go backwards and pull against it, or she'll rear it. And so how do you get them out of it? Well, I get them out of it by putting the 10 on them. Some of you may have heard me do a video on the 10 before. The 10 is what I labeled the 10. It's my little title that I made up myself. And what it means is that if pressure being applied is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being soft or minor, and 10 being pretty harsh or to the extreme of what I can do. Now listen, I'm 175 pounds and 6 foot even. I'm not a big guy, so I can't put a whole lot of pressure on them, but I can put enough on them that they know it's there. That's why I like to use these small halters, and because my goal is to get them to not even question the pressure. You know, I think we drag it out too far. I think we start with 1 and baby them into it. And I think you ought to just get in there and teach them to give that pressure just right off the bat. To where it's like, okay, if you don't want that kind of pressure on you, then come to it. And it won't be that way. So the reason I started this one with her coming out of her stall is because she's really reluctant there is really no physical threshold here, but she's really reluctant to come in or out of this stall. We spent a good probably hour, maybe 45 minutes to an hour getting her loaded yesterday. And all that's fine. I'm not saying she's a bad filly, but she does have a deep natural resistance in her, and it needs to come out. So right here, the reason I chose to do this is in video is because you might as well start now. So really, what would a normal horse do? They would just come to that, right? They would just come right out of the stall. You might say, Mark, is she scared? Well, she could be, but that's where we're wrong. Now I'm watching her right here. She's liable to walk out on her own, and that'd be fine with me if she did. Right there she comes. So this video is really not going to show you what I wanted to show you. So I will show you in the ring of what I'm talking about with the 10. So if Sarah Kate wants to go and get in position, she can go over here where we usually are. So she was resisting coming out of that stall, but it's gone now. She come on out, so we'll roll on with the video. So before I even lunge this filly around, I'll go ahead and show you how I get them over, because it's pretty significant in her. Yesterday, when I would put any kind of pressure, like trying to load her on the trailer, whenever I would put any kind of pressure behind her with my flag or whatever, trying to get her to go forward into the trailer, her natural response was to go up and over. She reared up and sit down a couple of times, and then a couple of times she rolled over on her side, from losing her balance. So that's got to leave. And the way I address it, if y'all seen me do it before, I'll just get out here in front of them, and I'll just put a little bit of pressure on them right here, teaching them to come to that 10, that most extreme pressure that I can put on one. I can't put a lot on them, but I can put enough on them that they feel it. And some people will do it with like right here. Here we go. Let's see how this works. That's that right there. She come to there. So if this would have been yesterday and trying to get her on the trailer, you would have seen her. She would have stood and did that for a few seconds, and then she would have reared up. She just would blow up and go backwards. So I'm like right there. So you might say, well, Mark, you're surprising. No wonder, poor little thing. Well, hey, it might be a surprise. She may get scared and tied up. Something may run around the corner or something and scare her. And she may forget she's tied in self-defense and take off. And she needs to learn how to respond to being subdued. And this pressure, like right there, she just, right there, she comes to it. Now, this is pretty physical on my part. It would be easier on a horse, and there wouldn't nothing be more, more classical and more, the nostalgia of it would be awesome of being on another horse. But I can't promise you that I can give as quick on a horse as I can by filling it with my body, if that makes sense. And I'm not opposed to doing it on a horse. I'm not saying not to. There's been a lot of good horsemen over the years, and I used to start a lot of colts from another horse too. But right now, I don't have that horse. I'm working on one. His name's Jasper. But right now, I don't really have a horse that handles good enough to start a colt. But I would still say there's times that I'd rather do it on the ground because I can feel that right there, bad. And I can, right there, good. The only thing that you got to watch, I've done this one time in front of a crowd at a clinic, and I run backwards to put pressure on the horse, and I thought it was going to balk, and it come to it, and I was prepared for the impact, and she come to it before I even got there, and I just kept going, and I ended up falling down. So they can embarrass you sometimes. So, but like right there, all that little hop up before she comes, it's got to go. How are you going to do it, Mark? Every day. Just like this. Until she gets really better. Right there. It's coming. If you notice, I always disengage the hind quarter after I do it. That must be right there. Every time I will disengage that hind quarter. Why? Because that's where it's coming from. It's coming from the hind quarter. Anything that they do, good or bad, comes from the right there. It comes from the hind quarter. So that's the way I'll address that little pullback problem. And that's what it is. And let me say this. I see a lot of videos out there on how to teach a colt to tie. Tying videos. There's nothing wrong with actually teaching a colt to tie, but if you will address this pressure issue first, tying them to a post or whatever, a high line or whatever you choose to tie them to, a tree, will be a walk in the park because they already know how to give the pressure. So quit trying to teach them to tie and back up and teach them to give the pressure. And the teaching them to tie will be a breeze because that's all it is. So you be the tie pup is what I'm saying. You be the tie pup. You teach them right here to come to that, not to resist it. And then when you do time, they'll understand what's going on. So we'll just keep doing this. It's getting a whole lot better. I'm actually getting a little trot out of it. Right there, she didn't want to give to that. Here we go. They always regress. Let's see how she responds. She's either going to do one of two things. She's either going to come or she's going to blow up. Now this pressure that I have on her is not a lot, but it's enough. You can see that halter kind of digging into her neck, her pole right there a little bit. Now right here, she's getting ready to do something. I don't know what yet. Right there, she came to it. So when I drop the rope, when she comes to that, and I immediately give to her, she's going to realize in her head, some of them, it's harder to get this point across, but she'll finally figure out, hey, it'd be easier if I just come to it, if I would just give to that pressure. And we'll hold her right here. Now look at there. No resistance at all. I'm constantly, though, what am I doing? I'm disengaging that hindquarter. Right there, her head come up, and then she decided, then better not. Now I'm going to, look at here. Ain't that nice? Whole lot better. She sees me now getting ready. She sees me getting ready to pull, and what she do? Look, she starts coming to it. So that's how I address this problem. A lot of people would have tied her up and just let her sit and fight. And really, I mean, you can get a young horse like this hurt. They can pull their neck muscles, they can get down, and then you got to go cut the rope to get them up, because if they're down and they're tied and their head's up in the air, they can't get up because they got to have their head to get up. So you got to end up cutting the rope, and I mean, it can be get real silly in a minute. So I'd rather do it this way. Now everybody's heard of the Aussie tie ring or the blocker tie ring, Clinton Anderson's tie ring. Now I think them things are great. I used to have 4 or 5 of them, and over the years they broke, but I should have one on about every one of these posts here, because they work pretty good. But I'll go as far as to say that those are for a problem. Hear me out here. Those are for horses that have acquired a pullback problem from what? From not being taught to give the pressure first. See, I'm all about addressing it from the get-go, and the problem's never there. Now, let me stop and explain to you that I believe that there are hereditary, through genetics, there are problems with horses being tied. I've got a mare that's a brood mare now. Her name's Shy. She's due to foal any time now. And it was known through her genetics from her sisters and cousins, and I think it comes from her sire, the stallion. They have a natural pullback issue. I mean, she panics when she's tied. And I worked on her for, I know, 2 or 3 years straight, occasionally, pretty often, but occasionally, working with her on pulling back. And I never did fix her. So I think that's more of a genetical, it's hard for me to think of the terminology, but a lot of it is just the simple fact that with most cases, like with this filly, they just haven't learned to give the pressure. So when it's like that, I think you can fix it. When it's like my mare, not making excuses because it's my mare, because I've studied it, I've tried to figure it out. It's something deep inside of her mind that she has a problem with. And it's genetical, because I hear that it comes. Now, she wasn't around her daddy enough to acquire this habit from him of seeing it, and like cribbing or something. You know, some horses can learn to crib from other horses. Windsuckers, they call them. But no, she wasn't around her daddy enough to acquire this problem by being around him. So somehow, in terminology that I can't explain, it's genetical. It's in their mind. But with this kind of deal, it's not genetical. It's just a natural resistance, and you can get them out of it. So we'll work on that just another second or two, and then we'll teach her. We'll go on with her groundwork today. Some more of it. It's pretty nice. Now a lot of people complain because I talk so much, and that don't bother me, because I'm going to keep on talking anyway. But if you notice that when I talk, in between these little applications that I do, that it gives this horse an opportunity to soak and to think about what just transpired. And if you notice, they're a whole lot better when I go back to do it. It's almost like it just really helps them to figure things out. So I really like to teach these things and then let them soak. And it would be pretty awkward that if I let one soak, if I just stood here. Let me give you 10 seconds of what silence would be like. Ain't that awkward, Sarah Kate? Sarah Kate says it is awkward. So that's why I talk. When I'm letting these horses soak, I'm not just talking. I'm letting these horses soak on what I just did. So I just do this over and over and teach her to give. Right there, teach her to give. And I always try to quit on a pretty good note. I'm going to quit on that section of it. Now we're going to teach her, I did a little bit yesterday, on how to teach her to direct and drive. She's going to move that shoulder over first. And then go forward, just like that. And just teach this little filly how to move around this pen. Now she's a well-built little done quarter horse filly. Like I said, she's 2 years old. I don't quite know her bloodlines. I'll get a copy of her papers just for curiosity and tell y'all how she's bred. I think she's bred pretty good. She's a local filly. The owner here, he lives pretty local. And if you remember Daisy and Barbie, Daisy was a bay, Barbie was a Palomino, and I think Ruby was a Red Rome filly. They're all fillies. They're all owned by the same gentleman, and this is the last of them. And when I say the last of them, I don't mean that I'm not going to work on them anymore, but the way I like to do colts is I like to bring them in and put a good 30 to 60 days on them of just some groundwork and saddling and maybe a little bit of riding, and then I ask him if we could turn them back out for 2 or 3 months and bring them back and do it again. So that's what we're doing, and she's the last of the 4. Now I'm going to start all over with one that I've had before here and do another series or another month or 2 on them. So I think that really makes a better colt or a young horse, is when you do it in increments and let them grow up mentally. But as long as you do something good while they're here, just bringing them here and brushing on them don't do a whole lot of good. It just gets them used to being brushed. So you see her natural. See, look at her. Her natural thing is to go backwards. So I'm trying right there. I'm trying to teach her how to go forward. So that's what she would do on the trailer. Trying to get her on the trailer. And I understand that she was scared. She didn't want to go on the trailer. That's not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to get you to see is that a lot of horses, most horses, have a way out. They have a way of showing themselves of their temper tantrum or their go-to. Let's call it that. They have a go-to. Most horses have a go-to. And her go-to, when she's confused, scared, or just don't want to do it, is either to go back or rear up, or both at the same time. So you seen it just now when I was asking her to go forward. So by me doing the groundwork on her especially, it's really going to teach her what? How to drive forward, like right here. There goes the backward thing again. Now she goes forward. So she'll finally figure out that it would be better if she would just go forward. See, that's the whole point. I'm glad that I got to bring this out with her, because that's the whole point of doing groundwork, is teaching them to go forward. Sending them forward. I think we get confused sometimes when we do all this stuff to horses, and we're doing a good job, but we don't know really why we're doing it. And that's what my goal is to teach people why. Why am I directing, driving my horse? Why am I teaching my horse to come to pressure? Well, it all starts to add up. It all starts to, what's the purpose of lunging a horse? The way I look at lunging a horse is being behind that drive line, and you're literally riding them from the ground. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but that's what you're doing. You're riding them from the ground, because one day when you get on them, you're going to be behind them. In other words, you're going to be back here, and you're going to be asking, putting pressure here for them to go forward. So that's the whole point of this. I think a lot of people, one person responded one time, commented and said that I was lunging these horses all wrong, that I should just be standing stationary, letting the horse go around me. There's nothing in the world that I can't stand to see more than that, than the person that is standing there. Let me tell you, when you're lunging these horses, look here. Let me get her moving here. When you get behind this drive line and you go with them, you're teaching them to drive forward from you. This is all in preparation of being ridden. So I'm riding her from the ground, basically. I'm riding her she's learning to go forward from me being behind the drive line, which is the girth line. So I hope that makes sense. So everything that we do, or everything I do, is in preparation to be ridden. Because that's what they're here for. They're not here to be loved on or rubbed on, although I do that. But, you know, that's why God created them. Look at a horse. Let me just get real with you a minute. Look at it. They got a girth line. Their mouth was made for a bit. They have pincher teeth. But you ever notice there is no teeth from the pincher teeth to the jaw teeth? To the top and bottom molars? Hey, that's where the bit goes. I mean, he designed it this way. The way their backs is made, the way their withers is made, to hold on a saddle. So my whole goal is to teach her to what? To be ridden. So if my whole goal is to teach her to be ridden, then look at there how well she went out that time. Then I'm going to teach her how to be ridden from the ground first. In other words, behind that drive line, driving her forward. I hope all that makes sense. It took me years for myself to understand why am I doing all this groundwork? And then you lay in the bed at night and you start, or I do anyway. I lay in the bed at night and I would think of everything I was doing, and it just started making sense. You know, it's the same difference of riding them from the ground. And so for those people that just stand in the middle of the pen and let their horse go around them, more power to you. But you're really just wasting your time. You're exercising your horse, and that's it. You're not teaching your horse anything, especially if it's a colt. So we'll just keep working on this, direct and drive, trying to get that natural response right here. See there? Any kind of pressure on her, that's pressure of me asking her to move out. Any kind of pressure, she either goes back or up or both. So I'll get that out of her. How? Just what I'm doing. Now right here, watch this right here. I like to put the 10 on them as they're moving. So right here, I'm just going to rear back and put that 10 on her right here, right here, right here. Boom, right there. Let's do it this way. Teaching this horse to give the pressure. Let her get settled in that, and then I'm going to put the 10 on her. But I'm going to manipulate it to where I have more power. And the way I'm going to do that is from the side. So right here, I'm going to put the 10 on her. Right here. Teach her to come. Right there. Good. Let her think about that a second. We'll move her out this way. That's how I get horses. That's how I teach even a young colt, a weanling, you know, a year and a half ago from her age, is how I teach them to be tied. It's just what you see. I'll teach them to really handle this extreme pressure right here. Right? Look at that mouth. You see that mouth? If you didn't, rewind it. She had that mouth open, that tongue shaking. That's resistance. She's cranking that mouth. She's cranking that jaw. I've seen them do it with bridles in their mouth, and it's a resistance, and it must leave. I'm not downing her saying she's a bad horse. I have to call it like I see it, and I also have to fix it as I see it. And this natural resistance that she has in her has got to go. And there is no finer time than to do it now at her age. Now, what I see is, a lot of times, is it's just ignored, because most people, I'm going to say something here that may offend some, but most people don't know how to get down in here and fix the problem. So they ignore it, and then the problem pops up its old ugly head later on down the road. So right here, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to haul down on her again. Right there. Boom. She comes to that. Let's do that a few more times, and I'll let y'all go for today. Just teaching her to what? Give the pressure. So I'll haul down on her right here. Right there. That's good. Now, she really did good right there, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to rub her. I'm going to let her know that she's a good little filly. It ain't her fault. I'm not mad at her, but it's got to go. That resistance has got to go. So once she stands here just a moment, and I let her think about this, I might shake her back right here, just because she's a little too close. It may take a minute to get her feet to move. You have to shake pretty hard sometimes. See how she don't want to go back? Right there. She finally backed up. Now that resistance in her is pretty heavy. Well, that looked horrible, Mark. Yeah, it did. I hate that I had to do it. But I finally got what? I finally got her feet to move. It's not her fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just what it is. Not pointing any fingers. Now right here, look here, now we got it. So I'll ask her to back up again. See, she wants to fly into it. We'll just get her to, right there. Get her to back up. Does that mean she's going to be a bad horse? No. She'll probably have more grit than most horses even dream about having. She'll probably be a pretty good one. But she's at the right place for this resistant thing to be taken out of her. Because like I say, I've searched high and low for knowledge on this, and I had to acquire it myself when it's extreme like this. I had to just play around and create things myself because I found no literature or no videos or anything on a horse that is extremely resistant. And I know that's a bold statement with the world that we live in now, with all the many really good, talented clinicians out there. Now, there's a lot of, and horsemen and horsewomen, there's a lot of people that will know what I'm talking about. All I'm saying is I found no literature or no videos on when the resistance is as extreme as it is with her. And some others that I've gotten in here. So we'll just ask her to back up right here again. See, she's really got to learn how to give right there. She's really got to learn how to get away from that pressure. And that is pressure. It's not a constant pull pressure. It's more of an action stimulus type pressure, but it's still pressure. And all she wants to do is resist against it. You know, that's what nature tells them to do. If a mountain lion gets on your back, you buck it off. If a wolf gets you down and goes to chewing on your abdominal area, you do whatever you can to get it off. You resist. I mean, it's inner. But when they come into the human world, it's up to us to take the horse out of them and say, look, you're in a human world now. Your horse nature or your horse ways has got to leave. So we'll look at there. That's a whole lot better, ain't it? See, she figured out that just the shake of that rope, it'd be better if she moved because I make that halter uncomfortable on her nose. We'll just shake her back right here. Look at that. Ain't that much better? Much better. But look how extreme I had to get. I think that's where a lot of people, I ain't going to say they mess up, but that's where a lot of people fail, is they don't quite understand how much extreme to put on. So right here, now look how little I have to do. Look how little I have to do. Pretty cool, huh? So we're about done with her today. We're going to work on more of this this pressure and release right here. Right there. I don't know if y'all remember the Palomino filly that I had in here that was named Luna or not. If you don't, go scroll way back. She was several months ago, so there will be a lot of videos in front of her. But she's the one that ended up, her nose got all tore up from the halter. But she had a lot of resistance in her. It was bad. And she was already 3, I think, maybe even 4. And it took me a lot of work, a lot of Bengay on my shoulders, and a lot of ibuprofen of the evenings after working her because I had to pull around on her so much. But she finally was a whole lot better when she left. She wasn't totally resistance free, but she was a whole lot better. So we'll ask this filly, see, there comes that natural response to back up and resist. And that will leave. Probably won't leave today, evidently, but it will leave. So I'll get her going forward right here, get her really moving. And then we'll just haul down on her right here. Look here. Much better. Get her moving this way. Much better right there. Haul down on her right here. Look, I'm not even hardly pulling. That's much better. So I always like to quit on a good note. I'll rub her here and let her know she did a good job. And she's young. I don't like to crowd their minds. I'm not in a hurry. I've got her for a month or 2, however long I need, and that will be sufficient for her. We've got plenty of time to work on this. And I hope that taught y'all something. I know I talk a lot and I talk deep, but it's just the things that I've learned, and I still ain't mastered being able to put it in words yet, but I'm working on it. But I hope that it gave you a tip or a little trace of what I work on here, and I hope you understand it. So like always, we thank you for watching, and God bless you.